Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Texas Prison Transparency Project. This is episode 15 out here on a lovely Thursday evening, enjoying life in the free world, out here in the great wide open, as we call it. And we have another fantastic program lined up for y'all tonight. First off, allow me to apologize. My dear lady Ashlyn is feeling a little under the weather today, so she's going to excuse herself this evening, and it's going to be us. So, welcome. Tonight, I have two guests here with me, two guys who have been through the fire, as we say. They've been through TDC. They're both pretty much recently released, as we all are. And tonight, I have Mr. Matt Ayers and Mr. Marshall here with me, which is kind of a coincidence since my last name's Marshall as well. What's up, buddy?
Nice. Yes,
nice. So, bye.
Yeah, tonight we're speaking about, it's easy to say prisoner entrepreneurship, but more accurately, it's ex-prisoner entrepreneurship. And we're here to show that success after prison and even entrepreneurship and business ownership is very possible. Not just possible, but it happens more than a lot of people think, right? Because people spend years on end, sometimes decades, behind walls and behind bars and behind that razor wire. And the number one thing that we have on the inside that most people don't have much of out here is a lot of time on our hands, time that we can study, that we can learn, that we can build ourselves, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and prepare ourselves for another chapter in our life. We've already gone down the wrong roads. We've experienced the consequences of such choices, actions, and behaviors. And we've decided that we want the rest of our lives to be something different, to be something better. But not just that. That's great in and of itself, and that's what we want for everybody. But at the same time, we want to show people that you can be successful after prison. You can have a conviction, felony on your record, and it's not the end of your life. Because I can't speak for these gentlemen on this point here, but speaking for myself, there were many years that I used to wonder if I was still going to have a life after prison, or if I would ever even make it out of prison, and I struggled with that. What am I going to do with my life? Do I still have a chance? Is it still worth it? Is there still going to be like real, true opportunity for somebody like me? And thankfully, man, we have found a way out of that darkness and into a light, and we want to share that light with other people and show you that it is possible. Yes, you need to put in the work, but yes, it is also going to be very much worth it. So with that in mind, let me begin with Matt. Matt, yes, how long have you been out, sir?
I've been out for just about 6 months.
Oh, wow. 6 months. So me and you are almost on the same trajectory. I got about 5.5 months. About
nice.
5.5 months. And
yes, sir.
You don't mind me asking, how long were you down for?
I was locked up for 11 years and 10 months, right under 12 years flat.
Wow. Yeah, over a decade, almost a dozen. Wow, that's a long time, brother.
Sure.
I'm glad you're out, man. I'm glad you're doing good. Marshall, how long have you been out, sir?
I've been out about 3, going on 4 months.
Yeah, pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Still acclimating, or does this seem normal to you now?
It seems very normal to me now. Actually, I feel like I've kind of gotten in the groove and with the flow of things, and I'm just moving right in there, bro, and doing my thing, bro. Awesome, God has blessed me. God has blessed me with some great mentors. Matt's my best friend, my mentor, my boss. And it's just been an amazing experience all the way around, bro. I'm just gonna keep it 100.
That's awesome, man. So happy for you, man. How did y'all meet each other? How long have y'all known each other for?
Well, I'd say about a year and a half.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say about a year and a half.
Yeah, I'd say about a year and a half as well. I met him at Win Unit, and we were at the trustee camp, and ran across him a couple times at church. I was introduced to him by a couple of my other buddies, and we started connecting a little bit. And one day the Lord put in my spirit to really challenge him and ask him a very serious question about, he believes that he's been, truly converted and born again. And that was the turning point, for his life by the grace of God. And that's what really began our friendship, our bond, and the mentorship that started then leading up to this very present moment. So
Amazing, man. Met and bonded through faith, and tested that faith and found out that y'all shared true faith. That's a beautiful thing.
amen.
Most definitely.
Oh,
So I'll even take it a step further, and I'll tell you when and where it happened.
What?
So we were on the rec yard, and Matt started sharing his conversion story about how he came to Christ.
Yes.
And when I heard that, it stirred something up inside of me, bro, to where I went back to my bunk that night. Oh, that was a big bump. Went back to my bunk that night, and I just started praying, bro, like on and off all night long, dog. And I couldn't wait until I saw Matt the next day, and I was like, "Hey, bro, look, I'm gonna be 100 with you. I want what you got. I want what you got." I mean, he was sharing his story when we were on the basketball court outside, bro. And he asked me a question. He's like, "Have you ever truly been saved, like 110% all the way across the board, surrendered your life over to Jesus Christ?" And it's like there was a long pause there, and he took that. He said, "Well, I take that as a no." And so we agreed to sit down, and he took me through a series of studies. And at that point, I completely surrendered my entire life over to God. And then we started having Bible studies at the camp, with Justin McKellen, JD, a couple other people. And so, like, it started with just me and Matt. But over the course of a couple months, bro, each week it grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was just such a blessing and an honor, bro, to see God move just like that, bro. I will never forget that experience, bro. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
Yes. And what I see here is the fact that even though we were in a dark place, being punished for wrongdoing, you can meet people on the inside that will inspire you and they can guide you. And we help build each other up. Like they say, iron sharpens iron, right? And we sharpen ourselves upon each other. We inspire each other. And as strange as it may sound to many people, you can actually do a lot of very good networking in prison. There's all kinds of different people in there. It's not just the scum of the earth or anything, as some people would have it. Almost everybody I've ever met in my life out here on the outside, they have always said, there's always been something they've done in their life that they could have went to prison for. Most of them have just been lucky enough, or by the grace of God, they were not caught, and they had the chance and the opportunity to change their ways and to walk a different path before it ended where we ended up. So a lot of people, should not be so judgmental, but should actually take the time to think about the fact that could have very easily been you. Whoever you are, that could have been you. Thankfully it wasn't, because I don't wish that upon nobody. But at the same time, judgment should go out the window. These are all human beings with faults and flaws, but we all have the ability to do better and to be better. We just have to make that choice, and we have to put in the work to stand by it and stand upon it. So with that being said, what's that? What you got? Yeah. Okay, Marshall.
Is that we get back up and we keep moving forward, bro.
Right.
That's what really
the definition of success. Yeah, it's not a failure as long as you get up and try again. As long as you learn something from it. As long as you learn something from it, it's not a failure, just a mistake. So let's dive into our topic tonight. Matt, would you mind telling everybody what it is that you do out here these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in the energy business. I have a solar company, a roofing company, and we also do home contracting. I started my company about 4 months ago. 2 months out of prison, God gave
Wow.
me the name called Kingdom First Contracting, which is based off Matthew 6:33. Seek first God's kingdom, His righteousness, and then, and only then, will all these things be added. So obviously we're a Christian company that points to heaven. We're not salespeople, we're servicemen, and we represent
Right.
the kingdom of God and how we operate. God has
Nice.
been good. He's opened a lot of doors for us to do a lot of beautiful things. We also have a credit cleaning company called Kingdom Credit Cleansing. So we're working on developing that as well. And it's just, God's just been doing it, man. I prepared myself
Wow,
though, and that's the
man.
key. I prepared myself from June 18th, 2013
Mm-hmm.
until December 13th, 2024. I never stopped investing in my life. I never stopped preparing. I never stopped networking. I was constantly envisioning these things for my future and taking the necessary steps to cultivate to make this possible my entire incarceration. Because great preparation is going to bring great performance, right? And
Absolutely.
you reap what you sow. So if you're sowing into your life continually, you're nurturing, cultivating these seeds, at one point or another you're going to reap a harvest. So
Mm-hmm.
in my life, by the grace of God and only by the grace of God, when I got out, I have been reaping everything that I was sowing all of those years. So it's
Yes.
been a very smooth transition and acclimation.
Wow. Just the voices. I wonder if they can hear them.
I can hear you, but I can't hear
Okay.
him.
Yeah. Somebody in the comments, tell me if y'all can hear Matt. Okay. His voice seems to be muted right now on ours. Yeah. Give me
Yeah,
one second.
I can't hear him either, bro.
Yeah, somebody would tell me, we just asked in the comments if everybody can hear him or not. No, they can't. Oh, I don't know what happened. But while we figure
That's
this out
weird.
real quick, nope. A couple people said they can't hear him. See if you hit your mute button on accident, Matt.
Matt's
Yeah,
still
I'm not
going,
sure.
bro.
Yeah, I'm not
He's
sure if he
still
can hear
talking up a
me.
storm, boy. That's my
Can
boy,
you
though,
hear me?
man. That's my boy.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Can't hear you.
Okay. Wait, let
That's
him check
crazy.
that out for a minute. So while he's taking a look at that, man, like I said, just like he was saying though, he spent all that time on the inside preparing himself, building himself, building his knowledge, because he had a vision, he had goals, and he even used the word visualizing, and that's so important. I found out in my life. You think about what it is that you want for your future, how you want to build, and you need to actually visualize every step of that process and what that's going to look like, what it's going to involve. Will you be able to visualize it all? No, there's always going to be twists and turns and curveballs and unexpected stuff, but that's fine. As long as you have a basic blueprint, then you know which direction you need to be going. Okay, he just came back on. Let me add you back to the stage, brother. Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now, brother. I don't know what
the
happened.
devil is alive, brother. That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yeah,
There
we get a few tech gremlins every now and then,
Yeah.
nibbling
Yes.
on our feet or something like that. But
Yeah, when
yes,
I started shooting that gas, bro. The enemy's trying to tone it down a little bit.
right? They see this success, man, and that recidivism rate starting to dip, starting to fall, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Something
along.
else that occurred to me while you were speaking, though. There's a lot of guys in prison, and even out here in the free world, men and women, of course, any human. We think about things that we want to do in the future, like, yeah, one day I'm going to do this, that, or the other. And I was just speaking about the importance of visualizing what you want in your future, and visualizing every step of the process that you're aware of, at least, and what that's actually going to look like and what that's going to involve. Another thing that occurred to me while you were speaking is a quote that I have written down in a couple different places. It says, "Goals not acted upon are daydreams." Those aren't goals; those are daydreams.
Yeah, I agree. I
Feel
totally
free
agree.
to dream.
True.
Feel free to dream, and dream big. Don't limit yourself, but at the same time, make it realistic. What are you going to do to make that dream a reality, right? And I'm glad to hear that you spent your time on the inside very constructively, and you educated yourself in the ways you needed to educate yourself. Let me ask you this. Did you study business while you were in there? How to start a business, how to become legal?
Yeah, so, before I was incarcerated, I was in the car business. I did F&I, I was sales director. So I kind of was brought up in having like experience in business without actually owning my own. So while I was locked up, or let me rephrase that. While I was in training, I took it upon myself to further educate myself. I went to the library, studied different books about LLC versus S Corp, how to start your own business, just taking the initiative, man, just being intentional. Because if I don't, it's never going to happen. And if not
Right.
you, then who, right? So I'm responsible for my own self to do what I need to do to make things happen for my own life and for my future, because these are investments today for your tomorrow. And if you don't make the investment today, you're not going to reap the harvest tomorrow. So it starts in the now. So I was seizing the opportunity and, taking the time to study. I'm a networker too, bro. So your network is your net worth. And your net worth is only as big as your network, bro, because it's not so much what you know. I'm not the
It's
most
who you
intelligent
know.
guy in the room, but it's a lot of times who you know. And when
Absolutely.
you're walking
Yeah.
upright before the Lord, God is going to send kingdom connections your way to intersect with your life that will be open doors that will present opportunities. But when we're upright and walking in the ways of God, we don't miss those opportunities because we see them before we get there. And you can't have something until you can first see it first. That's
Absolutely.
a fact, bro. So that's kind of
Absolutely.
like, for me, my testimony. And then I took some business classes as well. I didn't get my degree, but I'll say this, and I'm just going to be all the way transparent. You don't have to have a degree to become successful. Now,
Absolutely not.
education rules the nation. Like, we need to
That's
get
correct.
educated without a doubt. Like, I'm for education, but I'll say this. I don't have a degree, and only by the grace of God, I have 2 businesses and a ministry and making $100,000 a month. Making 100K
That's
a month.
impressive, brother.
That's
That is
God,
both
bro.
impressive and inspiring.
And that's
Yes.
not
Okay.
me
Marshall,
boasting.
What's up, bro?
yeah, no, people need to know this. People need to know that this is possible and this can
Very
really happen.
possible.
So
Very
we're just
possible,
speaking
bro.
we're just
Absolutely.
speaking the plain We're speaking the plain truth here tonight.
Amen. Yes, sir.
For everybody to hear, because
Yes, sir.
awareness is key. You have to be aware of something before you can act upon it.
To be aware is to be
Marshall.
alive, brother.
Yes, sir.
What's
I love
up, bro?
Marshall, how did you study? Did you see yourself entering this field of business while you were on the inside? Was it ever on your horizon, on your radar?
After I met with Matt, yes. I've always had the desire to be successful, you know, especially going this time down. This is my third time down. But you know, after you know, I got enrolled in Lee College, taking business classes and stuff like that, and I'm 5 classes shy of having my degree. But you know, after I met Matt and he told me a little bit what he had going on and the potential to, you know, be very successful in this industry, bro. Like, I just set my sights on it, bro, and I'm going after it, bro. Like, I have my eyes on the prize, which is God, of course. God's the center of my life, first and foremost. But you know, I always want to do the right thing and help our customers, bro. We're here to serve. We're not here to sell anybody on anything. We're here to help people's, you know, financial situation better and leave them in a better financial situation than what we found them in. And yeah, I mean, ever since I met Matt, bro, it's just like I've never had the drive or the determination or the motivation that I have now. You know, a long time ago, bro, and I have it more now than I've ever had in my life. And thank God for that, bro. Like, God has placed that in me, bro. And you can ask Matt, bro. Like, I'm a super grinder, bro. I get out there, bro. I get it, and I come back with it, bro.
Yes, you have to have that drive, that work ethic. More specifically, you have to have the right work ethic to be successful. You know, it doesn't always come easy. Matter of fact, that's another question I had on my mind. Matt,
yes, buddy.
Whenever you got out, you had your plans, you had your goals. Did everything happen as you expected it to, or was there unexpected obstacles in the way?
All right, so I'm not going to say that it was the most perfect transition because obviously that's just not reality, right? But I will say this, that it was so much smoother than what I thought it was going to be. Truth be told.
Yes.
And that it was because of the preparation that I made continually. And then obviously I have a beautiful wife, which is part of my, who I am today, my testimony. And, I met my wife in prison, bro. Like, that's another part of my testimony. Literally met her in visitation at Polunsky unit. Like, how does that happen? Right. And we got married. My wife's right here too. Say hi, babe.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah. So
the man is blessed.
We fell in love. In fact, just a quick little rundown. I was in our pod, and after we saw each other and visit, this older white dude like comes up to me and says, "Hey man, weren't you in visit a couple days ago?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, what's up? He's like, "Yeah, my daughter, she wants to talk to you." I'm like, "That was your daughter?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm moving." Right? He's like, "I'm moving into your pod today for medium custody, out of the blue," and I'm like, "No way." And then, to make a long story short, like, they're from like Plano, Fort Worth area. Just all the boxes check, all the similarities. She ended up getting her phone set up. We ended up falling in love. We got married. We got married 5 months later.
My dad gets a walkie.
And then her dad walked her down the aisle at Polunsky. That's how I met Warden Dickerson. Well, now he's director, But anyway, that's a whole other testimony.
Story,
but my point is, like, God was already just aligning everything and preparing and putting everything together in my path on purpose, so that when I transitioned, like, God had already had a house for us for me to parole to. My wife had already been doing solar. So that was just it. God helped me to make a smooth transition, bro. And it was a blessing, man. I mean, there was some resistance, a little bit, a little opposition, but really after like just making the adjustments, overcoming the adversity, I mean, it smoothed out, man. And
let me ask you this. What would you say was the biggest obstacle to you achieving what you have achieved so far?
I don't know. I would probably, and it's not a big obstacle, but I would probably say, like, me being locked up for 12 years, me kind of falling behind like technology wise. My wife was probably laughing at me right
Yeah.
now because like that
Yeah.
airdrop
I'm
stuff,
still
like
learning
what's that?
myself.
You know what I mean? Like airdrop, like
Phone sideways.
oh, and then I was holding my phone sideways like I was texting on my tablet, you know? Uh
Yes.
so like I would say like the technology adjustment,
Yes.
but as far as like, getting my LLC, like learning the business, I picked it up pretty quick. It took me like,
Mhm.
I mean, let me backtrack. So a year before I got out, I was already studying solar, right? I was already preparing myself, sharpening, networking, doing flyers. I did like 5 deals in there, you know. My wife made
Okay.
100K through the referrals. So when I got out, I already kind of had like a little bit of an edge by like already
Mhm.
being
Right.
educated. I was comfortable talking about it. So that
Yes.
also helped me transition. And then, man, just the pieces, everything got put in position, bro. And it just all came together. But again, the key is this: keeping God first.
Yes,
Keeping God
sir.
first,
Amen to
bro.
that, for
That's the
sure.
bottom line.
So
Amen.
obviously you have inspired Marshall, yeah, onto his track to success, and he's climbing this ladder, and that's a beautiful thing, man. Who inspired you, Matt?
I'm going to be honest with you. I would say, obviously, my father. My dad was a very, very hard, just super dedicated, very determined father and husband and leader in my family. And I saw him, he would put that work in, man, and he became very successful. So I grew up seeing my father, in his success. And then my best friend, uh, his name is Eric. He was probably 24, owned his own dealership, and became very successful at a very young age. Just me seeing him. Um, it's in my day too, bro. Just like seeing
Yes,
these
you learned your
people,
work ethic.
envisioning him. Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. And just like it's in my bloodstream, bro. You just got to cultivate that. I always tell people if you want to have 3D vision,
Hmm.
okay, you got to have the 3Ds. You got to be determined, you got to be dedicated, and you got to be disciplined. And you got to be
That's
disciplined.
nice. I've
And
never
when
heard
you
that
can
one before.
truly
That's nice.
exhibit these 3Ds, bro, you have vision that can bring you through anything. Nothing
That's
will
nice.
stop you.
Never heard that.
There's
I
no
like that.
wall, there's no resistance, there's no opposition, there's no devil in hell that as a man of God is walking in determination, diligence, and discipline, bro, that vision is going to see you through the situation always. And I'm just
Absolutely.
walking that out. So,
That's industriousness right there. That's your work ethic. That's a beautiful
yeah,
thing, and I know your father would be proud to hear you say that you absorbed that from him. Yeah, that's
that
great, bro.
example is everything, brother. We do
Yes.
oftentimes as we see. And our influence, the word influence is influencia in Latin, and it means to
Hmm.
flow into. So whoever you're connected to makes the greatest difference in what is being deposited into you, which
Yes.
ultimately determines what comes out of your life.
Yes.
So
Just
I
like
had good
in life,
influence,
the people that you hang out with the most, the four or
you, be-
five people that
you
you
become.
associate the most with on a daily basis, you are your friends. Whether you
Yeah,
like
you
it or not,
become.
you are your friends. Yes. And that
Absolutely.
is so important.
So choose
That's
them,
one of
choose them
the major
wisely.
problems that people have a problem letting go of is old friendships that aren't true friendships, or at least that aren't good for you or good for us. And being able to to cut ties to old loyalties, because we don't like to give up. We seem to all have a very strong sense of loyalty, even when we've placed that loyalty in the wrong places,
Yeah, most
and
definitely.
we're
Yeah,
still so reluctant to cut those ties and move forward with our life. But
yeah,
that's part of the
definitely.
hardship. That's part of the growing pains, and it's a necessary thing. You have to decide at
Man.
some point that your life is more important to you than saying other things surrounding you that
And
you can
that's just
obviously let go of.
Yeah, bro. But not just your life, because we have to remember, like, we're responsible for more than ourselves, bro. We're responsible for
Yeah.
our wives, our kids, our family. So every decision that I make does not end with me. It only begins with me, and it affects those that are closest to me. And that's what it means to be others focused and to be
Mhm.
selfless, because you're considering your consequences and how they're going to affect those that you love the most, bro. And we got to think that way before we make any decisions.
Yes, that's one of the definitions of maturity as well.
Yeah,
True
most definitely,
maturity.
bro.
You know. So, man, let me ask you this: as a business owner, out here doing pretty well so far, so good. Well, obviously you do, but are you, aside from somebody like Marshall, who you've known personally, are you a second chance employer, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Like I believe I believe some of the hardest workers in the
Hmm.
world are those that are behind bars, bro. That are just, waiting for their opportunity, preparing for their opportunity, and they know it's going to come. But when I worked at like the stainless steel plants, and different facilities, bro. And some of the hardest workers I've ever ran into in my life, bro, are those that are behind bars, just trying to recover, reestablish themselves, and really develop a new level of ethics, like worth ethics that they may or
Yes.
may not never have had, but know now that it's imperative for future success. And bro, like, yeah, I'm for hiring anybody fresh out of, training camp. I hate even calling it prison, bro.
Training
To be
camp.
honest with you, 'cause
Yes, sir.
I never saw it that way. Never saw it that way ever.
Yeah.
So like, I'm for it, bro. Like, I've got a couple other buddies that are transitioning that I'm putting them to work right when they touch down. So anybody that,
Okay.
that is listening to this podcast, if they have a son, even a daughter, my wife is building a women's team right now. Have them call me
Okay.
and we'll put them to work, or I'll plug them in somewhere, because they may
Yeah.
not fit like in the sales force with me, but one of my buddies
Mhm.
that got out from Polunsky, I put them on with one of my other buddies that's got a security system. Like, I have a lot of
Networking.
connections. Yeah, bro. And
Yes.
I'm here to help anybody behind bars, bro, because I
To
relate to
uplift.
everybody all day long,
Yes.
bro. And I'll do
Yes.
whatever it takes to put people in position on purpose and for a purpose, whatever it takes.
Right. A rising tide lifts all boats, right, brother?
All day
Yes.
long, bro. And
And
I'm
that
all
when,
about that, bro. I'm not
and
about
when
my
you,
success. I'm about everybody's success.
yes, and whenever you share your blessings increase.
Yeah, most
Absolutely.
definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing. Do you know many other people, or any other people who have came out of that training ground, saying that people call prison, and have established businesses out here as well successfully?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely,
do?
bro. Yeah, most
Okay.
definitely. In
So
fact,
that,
J
like,
Dan Gum's one of them, bro.
there you go. Great
You already know it.
example, man. Forgiven felons. Yes.
Yeah.
Great
Now
example.
I've got friends that are out here
Magnificent.
doing it, bro.
He fell off the screen. Yeah.
Again?
Yeah. Yeah, no, Marshall did. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
okay.
he's coming back right now. He had a tech glitch. I'm about to put him back on the stage. We
Yeah,
see you,
most definitely.
Marshall. I got you, brother. Can you hear us?
My bad. Yeah, I can hear you. My bad.
There you go. You're all right, bro. Yeah, we're gonna roll with it. So,
Phone was on
Marshall,
like 6%. I had to plug it
what?
up real quick. What's up, bro?
Yes. What has been your biggest obstacles? Getting out and getting on this successful track that you're on now.
My biggest obstacles. I really wouldn't say I have, like, as far as being on the right track, none. Something I really learned lately, and it's even today, bro. And Matt's pop by top, bro. It's about, I've learned that you cannot help somebody that does not want to be helped.
Wow.
That's something I have learned lately, bro. And because I have a big heart, bro, and so I have a heart for those who are still struggling and
Yeah.
that are in the trenches, bro.
Because
And
we understand. We've been there. Yeah.
right, and so me, I feel like I'm obligated to try to help somebody, right, and give them a way
Yes.
out because I was right where they were, bro.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
bro, it just sucks. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if they don't want to take the help,
Right.
all we can do is just
Yes.
sit back and pray,
Yes.
bro, and just
Yeah.
let God do His thing. And
I
that's just
mentored a
something.
lot of
That's the
men.
biggest obstacle I've encountered lately.
Yeah.
But
I
you know what?
mentored
It
a
is
lot of
what it
men
is.
before I got out. And one thing I used to always tell them, man, is that all you can do is your part. It's upon us. It's our responsibility, even our obligation to do our part. But you can't never do nobody else's part for them. They have to want it themselves. And wanting ain't enough. They have to be willing to put in the work, to make the sacrifices necessary,
Yeah.
to build the future that you desire. And I also love how you men speak about, finding such strength in walking with God and displaying your faith openly, because, I learned myself that once I embraced a moral lifestyle, and actually got in closer touch with my own moral compass, when I started living morally, man, it made me feel so good. It was a feeling that I didn't really remember feeling before. Like I could look at the guy in the mirror and I could honestly say, like, man, that's not such a bad guy, man. I kind of like that guy. And I wonder how many people can really look in the mirror and say that they truly like themselves, and I think
Yeah,
that's
most
kind of
definitely.
tragic. I think that's kind of tragic, but at the same time, if that is the case, then you got to decide what you can do about that. If it's important enough to you, what can you do about that to where you can like the person that looks back at you? So yeah, there's a lot of inspiration there, man. Matt, I know you're a little
Right.
bit
Well,
short on
I'm
time
gonna
this
be
evening.
honest.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, bro, I couldn't even look at myself, years ago, bro. But now, every time I look in the mirror, bro, I tell myself every morning, bro, before I go to work,
Yeah,
I love you, bro. I love you, and we're gonna get out there, and we're gonna get it, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna impact somebody's life in a good way today. I tell myself
yeah,
that every single day.
yeah. Even that mustache, man. You love that little mustache too. Because I'll tell you,
Oh
man.
yeah, I love it, bro. I love it, man.
Yeah, I
Bro,
told him he had to
I
shave
I'm
love it,
kind
that.
of
dog.
wondering about
I
it,
told him
bro.
he had to shave that beard. He had to shave that beard.
Yeah, I had to, brother. I'm
Yeah, I was looking
sorry.
a little rough there for a little while, bro. But I got it together now, dog. Just
Yeah, I
saying.
noticed. I noticed. Yeah. It looked like
Oh
you
yeah.
had some kind of squirrel laying across your face or something for a minute, but yeah.
I know it.
That's
I'm
right.
trying to look more my age, dog. I'm trying to look more my
Yeah,
age,
I
bro. I
love
ain't gonna
you,
lie.
man.
I was looking like I was 50
Yeah,
something, but bro, now I look like I'm
yeah.
32 again. So that's what I
Okay,
love.
I'm just gonna let you get away with that one, man, because I love you. Matt, I know you're a
Oh,
little
I
bit
love you
short
too,
on
bro.
time this evening, so let me ask you, man, what would you say to? Matter of fact, there's about 3 different categories of people that you could address. What would you say to encourage both young people, because they tend to be young, whether teenagers, early 20s, mid 20s, sometimes even in our early 30s, you know, people that are living in a questionable manner and whose future is not looking very bright, who may be headed to prison at some point, to those people, to the people on the inside whose family and loved ones relay these messages that we spread out here, relay all of this to their loved ones on the inside to encourage them for once they get out and to not give up hope while they're in there. And thirdly, for those that are getting out of prison or fresh out, either fresh out or been out a few days, weeks, maybe a couple months, what would you say to encourage these people to finding the type of life that we're finding for ourselves these days?
I mean, to be honest with you, bro, it's a matter of mindset, brother. Mindset is mine to set.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for no one else to set. And
Right.
I've got to be able to have the right perspective of my own life. I've got to have a healthy view of my life. But
Yes.
what it boils down to more than anything, brother, my breathalyzer is going. I got to be in compliance. Let
Right.
me
There you
cheer. This is
go.
not a vape. I don't vape. This is a breathalyzer.
The
So
cost of
Marshall,
freedom, yeah,
whatever it takes.
whatever they want. Yeah. That's real life right there. And that's what some other people that are watching or that are going to hear about it, you're going to have to deal with that. That's okay.
Yeah,
You see that? As long as you're
yeah,
clean, that's all you got to do right there. And you're all
yeah.
good. Not an
Don't smoke.
issue.
I don't smoke no cigarettes. Alcohol free, drug free. Don't touch
Yeah.
none of it, man. Super
Yes,
healthy. But
sir.
anyways, so like everything just it goes back to your relationship with God, man. You know, when you truly know who you are in Christ, identity's everything. Because
Mhm.
depending on like how I view myself, like my perspective of my identity as a man of God and as a man determines how I spend my time. It determines
Yes.
how I live. It determines what I live for, right?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I no longer live for myself anymore because as a man of God, as a new creation in Christ, I'm no longer, like Paul said, Galatians 2:20, I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, in which the life I live now by faith, I no longer live for myself. I live unto him. So
Yeah.
now as my perspective and my purpose, I'm a servant. So I live on purpose and for a purpose for the Lord Jesus Christ. That
Yes.
shapes my mindset. That shapes my mentality. And your mentality becomes your reality. Literally. And how you view yourself
Literally.
determines everything. So that's how you
Literally.
develop that sense of worth, that sense of hope, that sense of perspective to where it's encompassed by just being kingdom minded. And then the
Yes.
Lord begins to minister to you, bro. And like having the right people in your corner that contributes. Having the right people complement your life. And they
Yes.
help you to see your full potential. And that helps you to be able to just broaden your vision for your future, which ultimately
Absolutely.
leads you into your future. And that's kind of like
Success.
that would be my perspective and like what I could say, man, just to kind of get people on the right course, on the right
Mhm.
path, and you can't go wrong, bro, having that perspective and that mindset.
Beautifully said, brother. Beautifully said, man. Marshall,
So,
what would you like to say to encourage people out there that are either headed down the wrong path, still in prison waiting to get out, or are fresh out into this big old great wide open free world? What would you like to say to inspire people, brother?
well, first off, I would like to say if you're on the wrong path, man, it's really not worth it. Life is so much better, being clean, sober, drug free, alcohol free.
Mhm.
It's life itself is just much more fulfilling, especially when you have God in it. For
Yes.
those you guys who are getting ready to get out, look, the best thing I can tell you is, as far as getting out and transitioning out, communicate with your parole officer, be open and honest, completely transparent all the way across the board, and they will work with you.
Yes.
100%. God has blessed me with a really, really great parole officer, and I couldn't ask for a better parole officer right now, to be honest.
Yeah,
She's
me
willing
too.
to, she's willing to stick her neck out for me. As far as work goes, she's like, look, if you got to go
Yeah.
somewhere for work, just let me know. Let me know if you got to leave the
Yes.
state. Just let me know. Shout out to I want to do a shout out to Forgiven Felons, Jaden Gum, aka Pops.
Yeah.
He's been really good. The accountability that he and I have is just amazing, and I feel like I'm right where I need to be at the right time.
Yes.
I need to be here for
That's
sure.
amazing.
But
That's
you
amazing.
know, I would just encourage everybody, when life, tries to throw you down, try to stand firm, stay rooted. As we say at Social Dallas, stay planted, and
Stay
if you have,
planted. Yeah.
right? If you have it's deep roots, when this tornado of life comes, bro, this tornado, no matter how big it is, bro, it's not going to be able to just
still be
pick you
standing.
up and just you'll still be standing. And you might fall down like a tree, bro.
There's that quote by, like, I believe it's Abraham Lincoln, says something along the lines of, when the dark clouds, or no, behind dark clouds, the sun's still shining. Yeah,
most definitely.
You just got to weather the storm.
I'll say this. Right, one of my really, really good friends told me something recently, and it stuck with me ever since. And I've already started to see changes that have been made. He told me to always have in my mind, I don't know how I'm going to win. I just know that I am not going to lose. And I tell myself that every single day. And bro, ever since I heard that, bro, my life has just started to get better and better and better. For example, I'll tell you a little bit about what we had going today. Matt and I, we were door knocking. People weren't answering, or some people were answering and they weren't interested. So then we just prayed, bro. We prayed and we were like, God, please send us to the right person that we can serve and help. And we were at a customer's house outside talking to them. And this lady next door, she was outside and she looked over, smiled, and I waved and she waved back. And, something told me, something told me to go talk to her, right? And I go over there and I talk to her, bro. And bam, just like that, an open door. And, I feel like that's where God wanted us to go. And, Matt was throwing me off in the deep end, kind of getting me out of my comfort zone because I needed that. And it all worked out. We ended the day really, really strong, bro. And I understand that God works in mysterious ways, and everything happens for a reason, bro. And so, I didn't know how I was gonna win today, bro, but I knew I wasn't gonna lose, and I didn't lose, bro. I actually won.
That's a good mindset, brother. That's great. So for everybody out there, man, these two men are great examples, man. And the other people that they've referenced that have inspired them and shown them the way to walk down this path, and I would like to call it a path of righteousness, because when you learn to live, in the right ways, in the right manner, as an upright man, then, you become righteous in the Lord, righteous in your faith, righteous in your everyday walk, how you walk, talk, act, and comport yourself in general, and when you can do that, it just makes you feel so much better as an individual, man. You start to feel whole and healthy and complete, and other people can sense that. I've had many people tell me, man, what do you have that I don't have? What do you got, man? How is it that you were able to walk around and you always got your head held up? And it's just something, call it aura, call it whatever you will, but people sense that in us, man. And so that also inspires me and encourages me and feeds me as well to continue to do so. Because like y'all said, man, we're not just living for ourselves. We're living for other people in our lives, and even for people that we don't even know about, because there's always somebody watching, right? Always. They could see something. They could see something in you that inspires them to decide not to do this dumb thing that they were thinking about doing. Like, man, like that guy wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And he's obviously doing pretty well. I probably shouldn't do that either. Maybe I need to do something that he's doing. That's always going on, whether we're aware of it or not.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say, Shannon. I feel like I need to say this, and this is so completely true. I learned this from Forgiven Felons Background Check. Jaden Gum, and there can't. This saying is just so true, bro, and it's so motivational and encouraging. I just got to say it, bro. We can't. Don't let your background hold you back. Make it pay you back. And
there you go.
Shout out to Forgiven Felons for that one.
Get out there, Marshall.
There you go. That's something I live with every day, bro. Because my past has held me back for so long, bro. But not no more, bro. I own that. I did what I did. I own that. And now I'm making it pay me back, bro. Because I can go out and I can help more people not make the same mistakes I did, bro.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, man. In brief, in summary, since we went down through there with y'all, I'll just mention as well for this episode, being ex-prisoner entrepreneurship, that myself, like I said, 5.5 months out. I've also got my own LLC. I've established a business called Heart Check Prison Strategies Group LLC. It's a consultancy firm, and we consult with people that are either know that they're on their way to that dark place. They're in there and they're getting ready, trying to prepare themselves for coming out, and even places out here on the institutional level on how they can actually better reform and help people achieve true rehabilitation and not just the lip service to it.
And man, it's awesome, bro. It's
we do workshops with people, with groups, with whoever. We do public speaking events, across the board. Because for me, I did 25 years in prison. That's a quarter of a century, and it just can't all have been for nothing. Instead of trying to ignore that or suppress it or act like it didn't happen and just move on, somebody told me along the way that if you can find a way to turn the negatives in your life into positives and actually make them work for you instead of against you, then, man, you're more than halfway along the path to success. So for me, man, I'm just trying to make it all be worthwhile, make it all have meant something, not just to me, but for other people, man, because I don't ever want nobody to go through the things that I've been through, right? And I'm sure y'all can say the same.
That's good.
So with that, man, it's been a great conversation, man. I love you, brothers, man. Y'all are great examples out here, man. Y'all inspire me as well. So, man,
yes, sir.
I think anybody got any last words? We good?
Yeah, bro. When we come over there, bro, just get ready to grill out, bro. That's all I gotta say. Grill that chicken, bro.
I've got a brand new barbecue pit, brother. I'm turning into a pit master real quick, like.
Yeah, I guess like my final encouragement, to people that are incarcerated is to remember, like, no chains can hold you back from true success. No stigma, no stereotyping. Like, people in prison always say, oh man, I'm going to have 3 X's on my back, and, I'm going to be outcasted. I'm not going to be able to reach true potential. I always hear this story about this guy or that story about that guy. That's all a lie, man. I'm not saying that the struggle's not real out here, because the struggle is real, most definitely. But what I am saying is that there's no ceiling to the level of potential that you can rise up to. But it all starts and it's birthed in the very place that you're at.
Yes.
We want to seize the moment, maximize the moment to prepare yourself now for the days ahead, because your preparation now is what's going to walk you right into success upon your release. And so I mean, I've been to prison twice. I've done 17 years. I lost most of my 20s. I lost all my 30s. And by the grace of God, because of my prep, only by his grace first, but then by me putting the work in, like you talked about, I am where I am.
Absolutely,
and
sir.
All things are possible for those that believe. There's no ceiling, there's no cap at the level of success and achievement that you can rise to. It don't matter how many times you've been down. It don't matter how many years you were locked up. It don't matter if you were riding with somebody, if you were family. It don't matter if you're sleeved up or you got a bodysuit. When you're serving the Lord, hey, bro.
It's something I worried about.
Nothing in this world can stop you from the success that God has for you. Bottom line.
Absolutely, man. Beautifully said, brother. Very, very good, man. Very inspiring. Your life, there's no timeout button on life, no matter where you're at. The clock's still ticking. You're still alive and living every day. And every day of that is a day you will never get back. Use it to its maximum potential. Saying, like you said, reap what you sow, plant them seeds and nurture them until you get the opportunity to bring them to fruition.
Absolutely.
So, brothers, I more than enjoyed our conversation tonight, man. And
me too.
I'm sure I see in the comments over here, a lot of people are really vibing with the points being made tonight. And I'm sure this is going to be shared a lot of times, man.
Amen.
So
Thank you, Lord,
I want
brother.
to thank y'all for y'all's time. Thank you for your example. And man, just please keep shining that light, man, because the world needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody that's listening too, though, like they got a loved one incarcerated, or if they have a loved one that's out, you know, they need an
Yes.
opportunity, you know, have them call me and give them my number, and we'll set them up, bro. We'll plug them in somewhere,
Absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yes.
So
We'll make the information, the contact information available on the Texas Prison Transparency page, and
okay, bro.
y'all will see it on here. I hope to talk to y'all again in the future, man. Get a progress
Amen.
report, see
Amen.
how
Yes,
things are
sir.
rolling. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all have a blessed evening,
Hey,
man.
so-
Enjoy y'all's freedom. Enjoy y'all's
Hey,
freedom.
so there's
Enjoy
been,
y'all's night.
So there's been some technical difficulties with my Facebook. It's kind of down right now, but the process is being fixed. So just for my people on Facebook, I'm not on there right now, but I should be back up and running tomorrow.
Right on. All right, bro. Love you, bro.
All right,
Thank you for
y'all
the
have a good
opportunity.
evening, man.
Appreciate the
Yes,
opportunity,
sir.
bro. All right, bye-bye.
Absolutely, anytime. All right, good night, y'all.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody. Good night.